I 27F have an older sister named Sheila, who I absolutely despise. She is the reason why I'm even on Reddit today, to ask if what I have decided is right or wrong. You see, Sheila is the eldest in my family. She was not a planned baby, and our parents had her when they were still in college. As a result, she had to spend the first 2 years more around our grandparents, who were helping our parents take care of her. Our parents did visit her as much as they could, while still working hard to graduate. When they finally graduated, our parents decided to get married to each other. And this is when Sheila started to live with them. I guess this is why she is extremely clingy, and wants attention from them all the time. However, Sheila spent 3 years being the center of our parents' world, until my mother got pregnant with me, from the moment I was born. Sheila has despised me. My earliest memories are of her trying to push me away, if I ever tried to crawl towards her, or even pull my hair. Until I started crying loudly in pain, our parents would always try to console me, saying that this was normal sibling stuff, and that every older sibling takes some time to adjust. But Sheila never changed over the years. If anything, she became even worse. She would loudly scream at me as a kid every time I would try to have a conversation with her. In many instances, she has tried to lock me multiple times, to prevent me from going up to our parents. I would keep banging on the door, or crying until one of our parents would come and rescue me. Sometimes she would even resort to slapping me or kicking me if she got annoyed around me. As a child, I did not know that these were some major issues, since my parents never made it a big deal. I always thought maybe eventually my big sister would warm up to me one day. The moment that truly changed my perspective on her happened one afternoon, when she asked me to play ball with her while our dad was at work and our mom was taking a nap. Being taller, she had a clear advantage. But instead of playing fair, she kept throwing the ball directly at my face. I repeatedly asked her to stop, but she just smiled and continued. Eventually, the ball struck me hard, and I felt warm liquid trickling down my face. My nose was bleeding, and the pain was intense. Tears welled up in my eyes, as I struggled to hold back the pain, as I attempted to retreat back into the house, with blood staining my shirt. Sheila chased after me, and halted me in my tracks. She insisted that I couldn't tell our parents what had happened, and demanded that I fabricate a story about falling face first onto the ground. Despite my agony, she refused to let me seek help from mom, until I agreed to her terms. I did lie to our parents. But thankfully, dad had CCTV installed everywhere around the house, and he checked the footage. Our parents were shocked to see how Sheila had repeatedly hit me with the ball, while dad yelled at her. Mom tried to protect her, saying how perhaps this was a one-time thing, and gently tried to talk to Sheila to find out why she would ever do this to me. Sheila looked pissed that they had found out the truth, and glared at me angrily throughout their questioning. She maintained her innocence, and my parents let it go, hoping that she would change. However, I knew she would blame me for all this, and this is when her bullying started to get even worse. She would intentionally try to slam the car door on my fingers whenever she could get a chance, or shove me into the school hallway when she was sure there were no teachers around. If I ever sat down with friends, she would find me during lunch and tell my friends how they should not be around a stinky backstabber like me. She would try to even steal my lunchbox or my lunch money, so I would have nothing to eat that day. Despite my attempts to confide in my mother, who tried to address Sheila's behavior through gentle parenting, it proved futile, and her bullying persisted. When I turned 9, I convinced my parents to throw me an anime-themed birthday party, something I had been pleading for, and to my delight, they finally agreed. However, Sheila had been relentless in her teasing, calling me a tomboy, and scoffing that no one would even show up, much to her surprise and mine. The opposite happened. As I invited my classmates, word spread among those boys and girls who shared my interest in anime, and they eagerly accepted the invitation. When the day of the party arrived, each guest arrived at my party dressed as their favorite anime character. It was a resounding success. And my parents, who had often seen me as reserved and shy due to Sheila's bullying, were amazed to witness how confident and well-liked I was among my peers. Sheila sulked around the house the whole evening, and even refused to sing happy birthday with other guests when it was time for me to cut the cake. Honestly, I didn't care, because for once I liked being the center of attention, without my sister trying to steal my thunder. Slowly and surely, as I started to grow up, I felt more confident in my own skin, and I learned to stand up against Sheila and her relentless bullying, refusing to remain silent any longer. I decided to confront Sheila head-on, every time she tried to taunt me, or comment about my looks. Instead of passively enduring her cruelty, I took action. I would bully her back, and call her out for her atrocious outfits, knowing that our father would address her behavior with a firm hand. I made sure to bring her actions to his attention whenever necessary. Unlike our mom, our father was always stern towards Sheila, and held her accountable for her actions. She hated me even more because of this, but at least she learned quickly that I was not going to back down anymore. When Sheila graduated high school, she did not have any prospects of going to college. She told our parents how she wanted to take a gap year, which led to a lot of argument. Since our parents wanted her to first get a college degree, Dad even told her how she could travel if she wanted to during her college breaks. But Sheila was adamant. Our parents begrudgingly agreed to her demand. However, this gap year for Sheila has turned into several years. In the first year, our parents paid for all her trips, as she backpacked across Europe, and had a good time. When the year came to an end, Dad tried to talk to her again about college. But Sheila refused all communications, so Dad told her that she was on her own from then on, and that he would not finance her trips anymore. She tried to rope in our mother for support, but Dad did not relent this time. At one point, Sheila told us how she wanted to become a digital nomad, so she could keep traveling. However, that failed miserably, because every job required a basic college degree. Left with few options, she reluctantly turned to volunteer work, which provided her with lodging, and occasionally meals. While our parents couldn't hide their disappointment in her choices, they never really interfered in her decision. The only reason they were disappointed was because Sheila would constantly complain about how difficult her life was, yet do nothing to change it. Meanwhile, unlike Sheila, I was good at studies. Math and science were easy for me, and my grades were excellent. Even before graduating, I received acceptance to my dream university, along with a partial scholarship. My parents couldn't have been prouder of my achievements, and news of my success prompted our relatives to urge them to throw a celebration in my honor. I think this decision of theirs was not well received by Sheila, who kept calling my mother and complaining to her about how they were more partial towards me. She felt my parents were trying to celebrate my success in her face, and that I was indirectly taunting her, since she could not get into any college. Honestly, I didn't even want her to show up, if she still had such hatred for me. But Mom clearly missed her, considering Sheila hadn't been home in over 5 months. Mom also believed it wouldn't look right if the eldest sibling was absent. During my celebratory party, reluctantly Sheila agreed to attend, albeit begrudgingly. She arrived a few days before for the party, and didn't even bother to congratulate me once. Even though I politely greeted her, on the day of my party our grandparents and relatives showed up with gifts, and everyone seemed to be having a great time. However, I couldn't help but notice Sheila's excessive drinking, which didn't escape our father's notice either. She kept drinking glasses of wine, without even stopping to take a beat. Concerned, he attempted to intervene, and stopped her from drinking another glass of wine, urging her to eat something instead. Sheila, however, angrily snatched her glass back from him, and continued to drink. Some of the relatives did look at her with concern. Later, our grandfather clinked his glass, to get everybody's attention. As he wanted to give a toast, he started his speech by first mentioning how he and everyone present were so proud of both me and Sheila, and that they were all happy to see the both of us doing what made us happy. He congratulated me on my scholarship, and told me how he couldn't wait to visit me in college, which made everyone smile. Hearing this, Sheila started to snort in the middle of her drinking, which made my grandfather stop in the middle of his speech. Our parents looked at each other uncomfortably when Sheila started to giggle, and then loudly told grandfather how no one was going to believe him for being proud of both of us, when the real reason they were all here was because of the golden child. I could feel my cheeks burning with embarrassment as Sheila's hurtful words echoed through the room, drawing the attention of everyone present. Deep down, she and I both knew that this was completely baseless of her to accuse our parents and others of favoring me more. Our parents had always treated us with love and fairness, never showing favoritism. In fact, if anything, our mother had a special bond with Sheila. Since she was the eldest, we were always allowed to make our own life decisions. She had chosen to not go to college, all on her own, and just because I had worked hard to get accepted with a scholarship, she was now trying to tear me down. I felt tears well up in my eyes, as she kept loudly complaining about how everyone had shown up to support me with gifts, but no one supported her or helped her with her finances. which could have allowed her to travel to even more countries. She even said how our parents should have never had 2 children if they didn't really want to take care of one, and how our dad wasn't sending her any more money. At this point my dad got up to walk towards her so he could stop her from embarrassing herself any further, and escort her out, but our grandfather was clearly pissed from hearing her words. He is always very soft-spoken, but for the first time I heard him raise his voice on her. He reminded her how much our parents had to work hard to establish themselves when they had her during their college years, and how if they never wanted her, they could have easily had that option. He berated her for trying to turn this happy occasion into something ugly, and that if she was really jealous of her little sister, then this was an issue within herself that only she could resolve. Sheila, visibly shaken by our grandfather's words, retreated from the party in tears, with our mother following closely behind to offer her comfort. Later our parents tried their best to get Sheila to talk to us, but she never did, nor did she ever apologize for her outburst. I soon moved out of my home, into my college dorm. While I focused on settling down at college, and trying to make new friends, Sheila lived with our parents. With no plans for her future, she would drink and party all night, with a few people she knew around town. Dad wanted her to at least get a part-time job, and even helped make a resume for her, so she could start applying in various places, but she hardly took any serious interest in finding a job. Even when she did apply, she was rarely selected for an interview. During this time I didn't know much about what was going on back at home, since I was hundreds of miles away, but I did know that our parents were always worried about Sheila. One night I woke up to my parents calling me frantically from the hospital. At first I thought something had happened to them, but they assured me that they were fine, but that Sheila had been in a car crash. It turns out that she was drinking and driving, and she had hit someone's fence. Luckily no one was hurt. Because of this she was not arrested. However, Dad had to pay for all the damages that she had caused. Even insurance refused to take care of the damages of the car, since she was under the influence. Hence it's justified to say that Dad was pissed, and wanted her out of their house as soon as possible. Sheila kept trying to play the victim card yet again, telling them how she was going through things mentally, and that at the end of the day, she didn't really hurt anybody. My dad told her that she had 2 choices. Either she could start going for therapy, apply for jobs, earn and save up money while living with them, or she could go do whatever it is that she wanted somewhere else. Since he was done, Sheila argued back that he had no right to try to control her life, when he and Mom never controlled mine. She again tried to bring up how she was always treated differently than me. Long story short, Dad kicked her out. As soon as she was discharged from the hospital, Sheila tried to contact our grandparents and relatives for help, asking them if she could move in with them instead, but they all knew about her recent troubles, and were unwilling to take any responsibility for her. Surprisingly, in a few days she even gave me a call, asking for money. I had a few thousand saved up, since I had a part-time job during high school. So despite how badly she had treated me in the past, I decided to help her out. I could not bear letting my sister couch surf with her friends. So I transferred whatever money I could, hoping that she would make wiser decisions, and that it would somehow repair our relationship. Well, not surprisingly, she used that money to booze and party with her friends. Instead of finding accommodation for herself, I saw her Snapchat story, and tried to text her about it, thinking we could have a sane adult conversation about it, but she decided to block me instead. I was so pissed at how she just used me whenever she wanted to, that I was also done with her manipulative behavior. I realized that if she wanted to continue being an irresponsible, immature person, then there was nothing that I could do to save her anymore. Sheila did try to reach out to our parents whenever she was in desperate need of money, but even Mom had enough of her at this point, and would ignore her calls, since we all knew how she was going to be using the money. For the next 3 years we hardly heard from her. Although both of our parents missed her, they hoped that she could eventually find her own footing in this world, and turn her life around. During my 4th year of college, I received an unexpected call from Sheila, who had not contacted me for so many years. I did feel a bit of hesitation about picking up her call, but decided to, just in case she was in some real danger. However, Sheila sounded excited, as she asked me how I had been, and what I had been up to lately. The most frustrating thing about having a conversation with Sheila is the way she acts and talks so nonchalantly, as if the past is all forgiven. I awkwardly brought up the fact that she had blocked me for years, but she dismissed it, claiming to have forgiven me. For my past mistakes, and wanting to start afresh, I had no idea as to what exactly she had forgiven me for, but before I could ask further, she opened up to me about how she had met someone last year. I asked her who he was, and she started gushing about how he was the dreamiest guy she had ever met, and that she wanted us to meet him. She asked me if I would be free for dinner the weekend, so I could visit our hometown, where our parents could also meet this mystery guy. Knowing better than to trust Sheila this time, I told her that I wasn't sure, and that I would get back to her on that. However, she kept insisting, telling me how it would not be a proper family reunion without me. She also had a conversation with our parents, who were surprised by how happy and excited she sounded. It's safe to say we were all curious to meet her, after so many years, so after talking to our parents, I decided to take an overnight bus back to my hometown that Friday night, so I could attend lunch with Sheila. On the day we had lunch, Sheila introduced her new man Jack to all of us. They looked healthy and happy. Sheila told us how she had a job in a marketing firm, which paid her quite well. This is where she met Jack. Their chemistry was evident, and I couldn't help but feel genuinely happy for my sister. However, things took an unexpected turn, when Jack began praising Sheila's intelligence, mentioning how lucky he was to have met such an accomplished woman like her, since she was a Berkeley graduate, while he had never got the chance to study at such a prestigious college. He continued to tell how Sheila would tell him all the time about her college life back in Berkeley, and the type of peers she had been surrounded with during her 4 years. He also told us how he hoped that one day, if they ever got married and had kids, he would want their kids to turn out like Sheila. We looked at him and smiled awkwardly, as we were all clearly confused as to why he would think Sheila had graduated from Berkeley, when she didn't even have a college degree to begin with. Sheila avoided making any eye contact with us after that, and swiftly changed the conversation to something else. The rest of lunch continued without any incident. After our lunch, Sheila hurriedly left with Jack, not even bothering to hug us goodbye. It was clear to both our parents and me that something wasn't right, and Sheila had clearly lied to Jack about her education. Later, she called us begging us not to tell Jack the truth. However, Dad wasn't satisfied with her explanation, and pressed her for more details. This is how Dad found out that Sheila had forged college documents so she could apply for jobs. We were all understandably outraged by the severity of her deception. She also confessed to Dad that she had failed to mention other significant details about her life to Jack, such as the car accident that had occurred, and the daily drinking habits that she previously had, because she didn't want him to know that side about her. While we empathized with her reluctance to disclose her past, we couldn't shake off the concern that she had fabricated an entire college degree, and might continue to deceive Jack for the rest of her life. Even though both Mom and Dad told her that what she was doing was extremely wrong, and that if she really loved Jack, then she should at least tell him the truth, as he had every right to know, Sheila refused, telling us not to interfere in her relationship. She was adamant that she could handle it in the future if Jack ever found out the truth, and kept telling how it was impossible for him to ever find out anyway. I did not want any part of her drama, so I kept my mouth shut and let my parents deal with this. It was just 3 months later when Sheila called to inform me that she and Jack had gotten engaged. I asked her if she thought they were moving a bit too fast, since it had just been a year since they had gotten into a relationship, but Sheila laughed at me. She told me that I would not know anything about engagement or marriage, since I had not met the right guy yet, as she had. This was true, so I congratulated her on her happiness, while she told me how she wanted to have an intimate wedding, with a few guests, and she had a few plans about how her wedding should look. She continued to tell me how, as her sister, she expected me to take charge of planning her wedding, since she did not want to be stressed out. I inquired if this meant she wanted me to be her maid of honor, but Sheila informed me that she had already asked her coworkers to fill those roles. I asked her what about bridesmaids, but she told me that those roles were also filled up. She continued to say how being her wedding planner was the most important role in her wedding anyway, and that she and I could start planning immediately. I was a bit disappointed that she wasn't even including me in the wedding. Instead, she expected me to take up planning her entire wedding, which was something I never even asked for in the first place. I assured her that her coworkers, who knew her well and spent more time with her, would be better suited to help with the planning instead of me. Sheila argued back that her coworkers were all working women with their own families, and that they could not spend their free time doing this. She told me that because I was still a college student, and apparently wasn't as busy as them. I should be grateful that she was assigning me this responsibility. Her reasoning made me laugh, because it reminded me of how manipulative she could be when she wanted something. I simply refused, and told her that this was my last year in college, and I had quite a lot of things on my plate already, so she should ask someone else to be in charge of her wedding planning. This must have pissed her off, because she started to say how she expected me to contribute to her wedding by doing this since I was her family. I replied back that I had no problem helping here and there, but that I could not possibly take on such a heavy task. With all the other things I had to manage as a college student, my refusal to help her has since become a huge issue, as she has immediately reached out to our parents, trying to urge them to pressure me into agreeing to take care of her wedding planning. She says that as the bride, it is humiliating for her to do these tasks, when other brides can depend on their family. When our parents tried to compromise, and told her that maybe she could pay me for the hours, as being a wedding planner is not easy. I would have to come up with a wedding theme, and guest seating chart, contact the caterers, and help her find the perfect venue, while also working hard for my college. But she refused, telling them that no sister would ever ask to get paid for such menial tasks, and that I was just being selfish as usual. She has continued to send me several messages, but I have refused to answer, and my parents are also choosing to stay out of it now, because they do agree with my decision. So Reddit, am I right in not agreeing to her demand? If you had a sister like Sheila, would you ever help her plan her wedding, even though she has done absolutely nothing for me in my entire life, but expects me to just drop everything and help her out? Update 1. When I posted this, I thought maybe a handful of you would comment about how y'all agree that my sister is just being too much. However, I have received hundreds messages from strangers, telling me what a red flag Sheila is, and how they have also had family members just as toxic as her. I am truly sorry to anyone who got triggered with my story, and I feel sorry that some of you have had to go through what I have gone through. For the first time in my life, I feel validated with my emotions. It's not easy having a bully in our lives, and Sheila truly is a nightmare to be around. A lot of you have asked me to tell Jack the truth and spare him from a lifetime of suffering with my sister. I do agree with the points made. And if I were Jack, I would definitely want to know if my partner had forged an entire college degree and knowingly not mentioned important things from their past. I plan on telling Jack the next time I see him, and will update here when I do. Meanwhile, Sheila has kept texting me for the past 2 days, forcing me to accept the responsibility of planning her wedding, and I have politely kept declining, instead telling her how I would be happy to help if she had any other easier task for me. Update 2. I know it's been a few weeks, but all hell has broken loose. As some of you who have kept up with my story know, I was going to tell my sister's fiancé the truth about her before they were married. A number of people advised me to reach out to him on social media, but I think it might have been weird since we have only ever talked once. Instead, I decided to write a note explaining everything that Sheila had put me through, and how she had been lying to him. I planned on giving the note to him during their engagement party, which Sheila was thrown to celebrate with our relatives and her friends. When I did arrive at her place, exhausted and hungry after my long bus ride, since she lives in a town 6 hours away from my college town, Sheila didn't even greet me properly. She stopped me at the entrance, telling me that I was late, and took my bags from my hand. She directed me to the back, and told me that they did not have enough servers for that day, since some of them had not shown up unexpectedly. Because I had previously told her that I could help her out with an easy task, she expected me to take up the task of serving drinks to all the guests during her party, as Sheila pushed me towards the servers at the back, without even giving me a chance to freshen up or even greet my parents and relatives. I was taken aback. My parents shared my surprise at seeing me serving drinks, but I flashed them a reassuring smile to convey that it wasn't a big deal, as I did not want them to worry. Unbeknownst to Sheila, this unexpected turn of events presented the perfect opportunity for me to discreetly slip a note to her fiancé while she was preoccupied mingling with her guests. When I handed a glass to Jack, he graciously thanked me and remarked that I didn't need to be serving. Seizing the moment, I passed him my note and quietly urged him to find a private moment to read it as soon as possible. Not even 15 minutes later, Jack emerged from the washroom with a flushed face. He walked up to Sheila and asked her if she had really been lying to him all along. Sheila looked at him in confusion, as Jack continued to press. If she had actually never been to college before, her eyes widened in shock. As the guests around us looked at them with confusion, turning to our parents for confirmation, Jack asked them, and my dad didn't hesitate to reveal that Sheila had never pursued higher education. Everyone watched in stunned silence, as Jack then asked Sheila loudly, as to how she could have lied to him about such an important thing, and how embarrassing this was for him to find out this way, just after getting engaged. Some of their coworkers had their mouths wide open as they watched the drama unfold. Jack continued to tell her that if she could lie to him about her fake college degree, then there were so many things that she could have lied to him about. And he did not know what to believe anymore. Long story short, the engagement party ended in a disaster. Sheila was left embarrassed in front of everyone. In the end, her fiancé left with his family, telling her that he needed some space away from her. After they left, the party was pretty much a bust, because everyone kept staring at Sheila, who looked shaken up. Even her coworkers left hastily after a few minutes, and I have no idea what will happen to her job, especially since her manager had been in attendance at the party. Sheila does suspect that one of our relatives, perhaps a cousin or me, may have revealed the truth to Jack, but she lacks any evidence. In the note I passed to Jack, I had urged him not to disclose that I had informed him of the truth, and I am grateful that he never implicated me. My parents have told Sheila that this is all her fault, since they wanted her to be upfront with her partner from the very beginning, but she had chosen to not do it. I will update next if she and Jack still decide to get married after this or not. Update 3. Well, as some of you predicted, Jack has called off the wedding. He even asked Sheila to give him back the engagement ring, since it belonged to his mother, and was a family heirloom. He has also asked her to move out of their house, and refuses to communicate with her any further. He has still not told her anything about how he found out the truth about her. As for some of you who keep telling me that I should confess and tell my sister about my note, I will absolutely not do that. I would like to clarify that I never lied to anyone. You can judge me all you want, but I did absolutely nothing wrong. I simply exposed the truth, and her fiancé chose to end their relationship. If I confess now, she is going to redirect all the anger and resentment she is feeling towards me, and I am not going to invite more drama and bullying into my life. I hope that this breakup teaches Sheila to hopefully become a better person in the future.